All right. Welcome to this season one presidential debate between Davy P. Long and Rib McSauce, who's an independent, and Davy Long is a Republican. We will be starting with introductions for both candidates, and then I will be asking further questions. Anyone in the audience may please mute while moderators will deal with the debate as a whole. So my first question will go to both candidates. And first, it will be going to Davy Pilon, uh, just randomly chosen one. Uh, please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us your plans or a brief summary of what you plan to do as president
Well,
of the
thank
United
you,
States.
Marty, for the question, and thank you, Harry, for moderating this also. And thank you for everyone watching. When I first decided to run for president, it wasn't because I wanted to do something for myself or because I thought this would be about me. No, folks, this is about us. For far too long, elites in Washington have been using the government to enact crony capitalism to enrich themselves and drain the working and middle class. We have record income inequality. We have record trade deficits. We have a lot of unemployment. We put too much of a focus on how the rich people are doing and how the stocks are doing. I believe it's about time we look back down to Main Street, my fellow Americans. My opponent, I believe, does not support some of the policies that I support to decrease wealth inequality in this great country. And it's sad to see so. It's really sad to see so. But we need someone that will share our wealth. Right now, the three richest people in this country represent 2.5% of our GDP. That is unacceptable, and we're not going to have that with a long administration. We have things like being weak on China. Our policy with China has to change. We cannot keep letting these people rip us off. It's ridiculous. And you can also look at it from a human rights perspective. We shouldn't be trading. Well, I'll put it this way. We shouldn't be reliant on a country that is literally committing genocide. So I believe that we need a president that understands the issues that Americans are facing and has a plan to deal with them. I have a very long and comprehensive platform on how I plan to address the issues. My opponent does not have a platform on how he'll address the issues. So on election day, folks, we need to be really careful with who we vote for so we can really solve the issues and make every man a king. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Long. Now I'd like to ask Rib McSauce of California to do the same. Give an introduction, please.
Okay. Well, my name is Rib McSauce of California. I'm an independent. And I ran for presidency. I was originally running for the House in California, but I saw Mr. Long was going uncontested for presidency, which I thought was strange in this time, as in one of the most difficult times of our entire country's history. Unemployment, our food nutrition is down, a lot of bad things. Environment, our trades are not good, unemployment. So I ran because I wanted, my opinion of everything to be out there and the opinion of my constituents that I represent. So, as I've said on my announcements, I do have a plan. He says I don't have a platform or a plan. I do. He just hasn't read, obviously, what I've been talking about. So I'll gladly bring that up. Number one, I support small business. I think small businesses have been destroyed in this country thanks to big corporations. And I plan first 100 days in office, if I'm elected, I support limiting deductions, as our current tax system favors the ultra wealthy. And as he mentioned, the top 5%. So having favorable tax advantage system for small business, big thing of mine, the environment, helping the environment, getting rid of the trash in our oceans and cleaning up our atmosphere, leading by example for other countries. AI is definitely a problem, just because of the amount of jobs it's taken from our middle class and lower class, and raising taxes on corporate, which currently pay an average tax rate about 12%, which is about the same as the lowest tax bracket for income taxes. It's ridiculous how little money corporations pay for taxes. So I want to raise that to 16%, a minimal raise, just because I understand the vital role corporations play in our economy, which I believe Davy P. Long does not. Davy P. Long wants to abolish $3 trillion, according to his plan, off the top
Wrong.
top 1%. He said he wants to cap everyone's fortune at 1,000 times the average family income, which my aides have calculated that to be about $700 million. So anyone above 700 million, he wants to tax the rest of that. Well, what Davy P. Long doesn't know and didn't think about is that according to the Forbes top 400 list, the top 400 richest people in the country, that would be about $3 trillion, which is nowhere near the amount of money he needs to fund his extravagant plans. And even then, he's taking $3 trillion worth of businesses, and he's taking these businesses, giving it to the government. And when the government controls businesses, that's communism. And I do not stand for communism.
I would like to rebuttal to that.
Yes.
Thank you. I believe that my opponent is mistaken on my policy. My policy would not affect corporations at all. I understand that businesses play a vital role in giving opportunity to the working and middle classes. That's why my plan doesn't even talk about doing too much to businesses, because I don't feel the need to do too much to them. What I want to do is do something to the ultra wealthy, because, listen, you don't have a barbecue and give one man 9/10 of the entire food. You wouldn't do that. You wouldn't invite your friends over to have a pizza and take 9 out of the 10 slices. No one would do that. It doesn't make sense. So in the same way, our country should not divide up its wealth in that manner. 3 people should not control 2.5% of the GDP. It is unnecessary. Nobody needs that kind of wealth. So yes, we are going to cap wealth in this country. And yes, my plans, he likes to talk about how expensive my plans are. My plans are this. An average, a family allowance of what would average out to be $950 per month. That's cheaper than in real life's candidate Andrew Yang's proposal for universal basic income. It's cheaper than that. What we're also going to do is we're going to allow lower and middle class people to deduct health care, housing, and educational expenses. That'll be a couple $100 billion, but you know something, it's important because we got to do it. We got to help these people out. These people are struggling. And yes, with small businesses, we're going to do a lot to help small businesses. We're going to expand the Small Business Administration. We are going to cut taxes for small businesses. We're going to make it easier for people to start worker cooperatives. We got to expand our base, our middle class, and small businesses is one of the best way to do it. And also, no, communism is not when the government does stuff. The government does stuff. It does stuff in every society. Even in a libertarian society, it does stuff. In a libertarian society, you aren't going to say we have a socialized police force or a socialized fire department or a socialized water utility. It's ridiculous. The government. That's not what communism is, folks. So we need a president that really knows what's going on, that knows, basic stuff about economics, quite frankly. And so my plan is this. We share our wealth, and we make every man a king, but no man with the crown. Thank you.
Alright, I think that it would be preferable if we had timers from now on.
I think he said we need a man who knows about economics. Was that an attack on me? Can I rebuttal to that?
Yes, of course, you have 30 seconds.
Hold on a second. I'm getting a timer out.
Okay.
So, Harry, please tell us when you start the timer.
Alright, so how long are rebuttals?
We'll say it's 30 seconds for each rebuttal, just to make sure it's... and then
All right,
if
Mr. McSauce, you may start your rebuttal.
All right. Well, first off, I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to the economy. I know business. And if he plans to be cutting off the rich, and from my estimates, 1,000 times the family income, that would be $700 million. And then I said that was $3 trillion using the Forbes 400 list of money we're taking from the rich. Well, the rich own businesses. That's why we're rich. This isn't sharing a pizza at family dinner. This is individuals working their entire lives. Smart individuals, tax-paying individuals.
Mr. McSauce, your time is up.
I would like to have a rebuttal. Real quickly. I'll make this quick. Look, when you have these mega corporations,
You got a
it's
longer
not some
rebuttal than
small
me.
mom and pop. Sometimes it is. But a lot of the times, it's shareholders having way more wealth than anyone needs at a time whenever people are struggling. And it's not your estimates. My plan literally says we're going to cap it at 1,000 times what it is. You didn't estimate that out of my plan. I literally told you in the plan, on the platform. It says it right there. It's it's clear as day. There's nothing in my platform that's tricky.
It's
It's
up,
very
Mr.
easy.
Long.
Huh?
Your time is up.
No.
All right. Marty, over.
Apologies. I would like to say that, would you like to rebuttal again, Mr. McSauce?
Yeah.
Alright, you have 30 seconds.
So as I was saying, I do know economics. We would be taking shares of companies from the rich. Okay. And the government now owns these shares of companies. And with the government owning these shares of companies, we have say in the prices. And communism is when
No.
when the government decides prices.
No, that's not what
Of
my plan would
goods.
be. That's not what my plan. The government would not be taking ownership of the corporations. It would be. We need more specifics, of course. The writings of my grandfather Huey Long. He wrote a book on this issue. Exactly how it would be done. There's multiple ways.
The only
we
way
could
you're
do it.
going to get enough money to pay for
We
your
could liquidate
universal
the
income is through
assets, or
taking
we
the
could
business.
create a trust
Alright,
fund that would
please
manage,
And you don't even
manage
have
the
enough.
stocks.
Order,
and
order,
distribute
order.
it to
Alright,
the
hold on,
American
hold
people.
on,
You
hold
have
on.
nowhere near
Order
enough.
in the debate.
750
Order
billion
in the debate.
I'd like to
a
have
month.
Rib McSauce talk first, and then David Long. After Mr. McSauce finishes, then you may respond to Mr.
I want to go on
McSauce's.
to the next subject. I'll let him finish, and then let's move on.
Alright, great. Mr. McSauce, you have 35 seconds since it's the final say on the subject.
All right. So, from what our recent stimulus package, which was $600 a month to low-income individuals, and this doesn't include any business supplements, cost our government about $500 billion. Mr. Long wants to propose $900 a month, which we estimate
Wrong.
is going to be $750 billion.
Okay,
a month.
no interruptions.
950 a month per family is going to cost the government around $750 billion a month. With our current fiscal situation and our extreme masses of public debt, we cannot afford this.
Alright, since
That's
both
simply
debaters
not true.
agree,
It's not-
order.
It's first
Order.
of all, it's not for every individual. It's for every
Alright.
household. Second,
Mr.
I guess you do know, but I don't know if your numbers fixed that in. Second of all, it's not a blanket 900.
Long.
This isn't a. No, let me say
Mr.
something.
Long.
Yes.
Alright, one last thing.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right.
And then we'll change the subject,
Yes,
alright?
after this-
Everyone
no,
agree with that?
I
This
thought I
isn't
had
a
the
blanket
final.
UBI
Mr.
$950 per month. This is there's factors. It's not a definite. Like, it's different money for different people. This isn't a blanket 950. Just so everyone is clear about that. The average amount would be 950.
Alright.
Now let's please change the subject. Let's discuss something that's really important. So, how will you both, since the stimulus package was invoked, how will you both prepare for a possible second coronavirus or possible second disaster in advance? Or would you prepare?
Who's the question for?
Who's going first?
He just left. Mr. Long, you may go first. 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Well, when it comes to being prepared, we need to make sure that we don't have liabilities involved. And that means that we do need to do something about our debt. This is a uncomfortable conversation for many, but we do need to look into doing something. So with the programs that I'm proposing, we would phase out other programs. We wouldn't keep on having food stamps and then also have the family allowance. So we're not going to be spending an additional $1 trillion on welfare. I just believe that the programs that I'm proposing are a better way to share our wealth and make every man a king. But we're not going to have it where we have all these different other, alphabet programs, as people like to call it, all these different things. We're not going to have that. So what does that lead to being prepared for a disaster? Well, you have to be fiscally prepared. So we need to make sure that we have funds set aside for disasters, whether it needs to be another stimulus or anything else. So we need to have what I would call a rainy day fund, where we set money aside after we've paid off our debt and everything, where this is money that will only be touched if there's an emergency happening or there's an emergency stimulus that needs to be sent out. And that's something that we would do. We'd start working on plans for that day one of a long administration. And then also we just need to make sure that we have the right task force. We need to have a pandemic task force that's adequately funded and equipped to deal with these types of things. That make sure that FEMA and other organizations are adequately funded, so they can respond quickly and properly to natural disasters. Thank you.
All right. Mr. McSauce, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Thank you, Mr. Long. When it comes to the pandemic, it saddens me that certain companies have taken it amongst themselves to profit off the production of masks, off medical supplies. And that's exactly why I have proposed making a federal medical price cabinet position and department that highly regulates the medical industry and caps the prices of medical surgeries, medicines, and bills. So we no longer have these greedy corporations taking advantage of in-need people. As a country together, we have to fight against the pandemic as one, not the people versus corporations and the pandemic. Corporations have to be on our side. And of course, this department must constantly deliberate with the average family income and the financial stability of hospitals, and find it won't be any sort of cheap medical, but from what we have right now with our current prices, it seems that medical companies have agreed that profit is more valuable to them than the health of the American citizen. So that, of course, I believe would definitely help the pandemic, make things more affordable for the government and our responses. And then, of course, as for another pandemic, I guess I'll have to face it as it comes. Increasing the budget of our health department is something I definitely would do, as it seems that the reaction of our government this time around was not sufficient, and there was improper training and deployment of medical supplies across the United States. So I would propose increasing our budget in that regard to help in the future. But if I have any time left...
That's your time. That's your time. Mr. Long, would you like a rebuttal?
No, I'd just like to say this, and this has nothing to do with my opponent. Just to be fair, the coronavirus wasn't an event in this server. That's why I didn't talk in detail about the coronavirus. Just wanted to put that out there.
No, that is just disregard that then, because then that doesn't matter to anyone.
Continuing on the segment of the coronavirus.
Why was there a question though about like a pandemic?
I should have, because I didn't want to tell the mods what questions to ask, because I'm a candidate, so and the owner, so I'm just.
If a second coronavirus were to appear in another nation, like its origin in China, would you temporarily ban travel to that nation or close travel completely? We'll start with Mr. McSauce. You have 2 minutes.
All right. Well, I'm just going to answer that quick question, yes. And then I'd like to use the remainder of my time, because I'm not obligated to speak about the topic, actually, to talk about the economy and Mr. Long's proposition of his universal basic income. It is a very expensive expenditure. Mr. Long hasn't gone into detail about how I just learned now average family income of $950 a month would be, who gets it, why, what amounts they get, not a lot of detail, but using past instances of stimulus. Well, I guess using our estimates, we imagine it would be around the tune of $750 billion a month, which is extreme. Now, I don't know if he would cut other welfare because of this.
Yes.
But
yeah, we are cutting other welfare because of this.
It would still be extremely expensive, and I would think it'd be less than current welfare. It would simplify it, but I'm worried about housing. I'm worrying about food. And I think the best way, instead of giving people money, is to encourage jobs. And that's why I support the banning of AI. A lot of AI in our industry right now is taking away jobs from the American worker. So I would rather have workers work than rather be paid by the government to do nothing. But I do understand that there are times when people need financial assistance. And that would conclude my 2 minutes.
All right, Mr. Long, you get 2 minutes for the response to the question.
Well, thank you. With my system would do, so yes, like I've said multiple times now, we would definitely eliminate other welfare programs. No question about it, because we're replacing it with this. And it's the average number. The way it would be determined is that, I guess, we do need to, listen, whenever we go to Congress and we start trying to work on the bill, it's going to be very specific and it's going to be a very transparent process. But what the plan is this. It's a family allowance. So it's based on the size of the family. So it's, you have your main person, dependents, spouse. Average amount averages out to be $950. The more children you have, the more your payment's going to go up. I don't have the numbers memorized off the top of my head, but get that to you. But the idea is a good idea. It's putting money back into the hands of families that need it the most. And we can do it. We can do anything in this country. There's never been a challenge that we haven't been able to overcome. There's no reason why we can't eliminate poverty. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, like I've said many times now, we're going to share our wealth, and we're going to make every man a king. Also, I'd like to touch on something I was brought up earlier. Communism isn't a policy. It's not a communist policy. Communism is a system. It's a system of, it's a moneyless society. It is a classless society. It's an international society. And those aren't things that I'm proposing. I've never once proposed anything that would lead anyone to believe that I want to abolish money, abolish class, and abolish borders. That's what communism is. So, maybe it's time to be honest with the voters about what you're really scared of, and that is eliminating wealth inequality and sharing our wealth and having an equitable society. So thank you.
All right. Any rebuttals?
I guess I'll rebuttal.
All right. 30 seconds.
Mr. Long. The government. Communism is not a cashless society. Communism can be a society.
There's
from
no
my
currency
knowledge,
in a communist
I could
society.
be wrong.
That's a fact. Marx wanted to abolish currency.
The government, if the government is having a major part in deciding prices, that's communism. And
no.
Otherwise,
That's
you
your
won't get
time.
enough money
That's your
if you
time.
don't do communism.
That's your time.
Nobody here is advocating for communism. There are communists, and I oppose those people. That's why I'm a hawk on China, because I want to actually oppose the real communists that are a threat to this world.
No, you have.
You want
you're using way
globalization
too
and
much
free
money
trade
here.
with China. That's your plan. I want to be tough on actual communists while spreading our wealth and making the society a more equitable society with less poverty. That's what I want. I want a better future
You're
for every
taking
American.
shares of
You want
businesses
free
and
trade
putting
with
them in the
China.
control of the Congress.
Order in the debate.
You're putting business control in the hands of the government.
No, that's not what I want. Also, I don't want businesses. My plan doesn't affect businesses. It's a
The rich own businesses. That's where the majority
yeah.
of the rich
Well,
have their
yeah,
wealth.
but it's not an anti. It's a
Okay,
straw man.
Mr.
My
Long.
plan
Mr.
barely
Long,
says
Mr.
anything
Long,
about
that's
doing
your
anything to
time.
businesses.
It's not
Mr.
practical.
I'm a pro
Your time.
business guy.
That's your time. Okay. Mr. McSauce, do you want to rebuttal?
Mm.
No? Okay. Next segment. Climate change. What will be your number one policy to try what would be your number one policy if you take office to combat climate change? Mr. Long, I'll give you 2 minutes as soon as I set up my timer. All right, 2 minutes. Mr. Long.
I've gone first every single time, so I'd like to let McSauce go first.
All right. Mr. McSauce, you get 2 minutes.
This debate, I'd like to use my time to talk about, number one, the moderator is changing the rules of this debate depending on what my opponent wants and wishes. So I
Well, I'll let you go
highly
first. I mean, I can
disrespect
go first
whoever
if you
who
want
is
me to,
hosting this
but-
debate. I just want to announce that, and then I'm going to answer my question. When it comes to the environment, I think just having people accountable is key. And there's many ways you can do that. Pollution taxes, laws. We can treat garbage differently. Now, one thing I would love to see is the removal of plastic from our lives. The pounds of, if you think about the pounds of plastic we produce and how much of that's going out into our oceans and everywhere, it is tremendous. It's disgusting. And it's actually degrading our ocean quality, our air quality, the water that we drink. And that just also brings into health and my plan to raise the general nutrition in this country by revitalizing the soil for cropland. It has been stripped due to what farmers call dilution. And dilution is where you have a plot of soil, and then if you have one plant on there, it absorbs the nutrients from the soil. Well, if you increase the amount of plants on that plot of soil, there's less nutrients per capita of all that food. And that is a problem that we have. And that's why I would suggest that we, as a country, support the banning of plastics. But that's too extreme for me, as I understand a lot of business relies on that. So subsidizing plastic alternatives would definitely be in my campaign first 100 days.
All right, Mr. Long, you get 2 minutes.
Well, what we're going to do about climate change is we're going to do three main things on my first 100 days in the Oval Office. First, we're going to prioritize nuclear energy and hydroelectric energy and geothermal energy. These are three pragmatic energy sources that are cleaner than the current energy sources that we use. They're safe, they're renewable. We got to do it. Other countries use them, they work just fine. We got to bring them to America. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to implement a carbon tax because it shouldn't be free to pollute the environment. It'll discourage carbon use while still recognizing that some carbon usage is necessary. That's why we're not going to ban it, because it is necessary sometimes. And third, I've talked to a lot of people on this. We're going to re-enter the Paris Climate Change Agreement on the condition that all the other members in it actually agree to go along with its proposals. I've talked to people. I used to think that we shouldn't re-enter, but hear me out, if the other countries also agree to go by the same standards that we do, I see no reason why we shouldn't re-enter. If I find something else funny, to go on another topic, the same opponent, the same person who called me a communist because I want the government to alleviate poverty, now wants to regulate plastic. That's environmental communism. I don't think we can have that. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't see the difference. But I guess it works. You can have the government do some things, and it's not communism, and other things that's all of a sudden magically communism. So, I don't write the rules. I don't write the rules, but.
All right, Mr. McSauce, would you like a?
I would like a response. Davey Pilon, you are so misinformed about the idea of communism that it scares me that you could be the next president of the United States. If the
It scares me that you don't know that the communists are committing genocide in China right now.
If you control the price of goods, communism controls the price of goods. That's communism.
I would ask for you to look at
Subsidizing-
my platform and show me where I support price
Subsidizing-
regulations.
Is giving companies money so that their prices
That's your
are
time.
lower.
That's your time.
Not controlling them, not making them a forced price.
That's
You're
your
the one that
time.
wants to regulate the economy. You're the one that just said you want to regulate plastic.
I do.
Yeah,
I want to
it's regulating the economy.
subsidize
You're a communist.
plastic.
Order in the debate.
alternatives.
Order in the debate.
I'm not saying everyone has to sell plastic at 30 cents a pound. If you own a business, if you own a large majority of businesses because you're taxing the rich, those businesses choose what they're selling to the public at what prices. And if you put the government in control of that, that's communism.
Alright. American people, I've made my platform public. You can look at it. It's in the presidential campaign channel on this server. Look at that platform. There's nowhere where I support price regulations or telling businesses what they can and can't sell. Thank you.
All right. Would you not support re-entering the Iran nuclear deal? We'll start with Red Mix Sauce. 2 minutes as soon as I set up my timer. All right. Let's begin.
I would, but it would be a whole different deal. First of all, Iran with nuclear weapons is a definitely scary thought, and I do not want that. But if we don't have a deal with them, and if they do get nuclear weapons, what cause other than provoking a foreign power do we have if they do get nuclear weapons? They're a sovereign entity. They're a foreign nation. It's an insult to them, especially the Iranian people, that we are trying to exert control over them, over the protection they have in their nation. We do not govern that body of people. We are not responsible for that body of people. I want to focus right here in the American side. Now, if they're a threat to us, yes, we will retaliate, but we will not govern them. And if they want to make a deal with us, that shows me that they are not a threat to us. They have in the past, whatever. But I will continue back on his economic policy involving taxing the rich, because it's still an issue. If you're not going to take the rich's businesses, which most of their money is in, if you're going to just take cash and other house assets, they're going to convert those assets into businesses. They're going to move that money into businesses so they don't have to be taxed that. And then you won't get any money at all for your $750 billion a month universal basic income. Now,
Well,
I
the
would
shares
work
are
with
part of the wealth, so that'd be
I would work with Iran to ensure that there's no nuclear tension between us, and give them freedom to express themselves so they don't feel pressured to defend themselves with nuclear weapons. I support denuclearization across the globe.
That's your time. All right, Mr. Long.
yeah,
2 minutes.
Thank you. Listen, we've tried to negotiate with Iran before, and quite frankly, they don't seem to want to negotiate. They violated President Barack Obama's Iran nuclear deal time and again. So, on the first 100 days of my administration, we're going to tell them, look, you have to enter an agreement. You have to agree to stop trying to create nuclear weapons. They're going to either nuke America or they're going to nuke Israel. And quite frankly, if they don't come to an agreement with us, we need to take out their nuclear capabilities. It's very simple. We're not going to allow us or one of our allies under my administration to come to threat of a rogue nuclear power that commits massive human rights abuses across their country, throwing homosexuals off of buildings, persecuting Christians, persecuting Jews. It's outrageous what they do. We're not going to stand for it. But also about going back to the economics, I guess. Well, let me say this. Again about the nukes. So we're not going to let them have nukes now, and we're not going to. It's not going to happen. Also, going back to the economics, if they put their wealth into the business, that's going to increase the value of their shares, which can be taxed under my tax. So it's a non-argument. This guy needs to do his research before he comes up here and starts attacking my plan. Doesn't even seem like he's read a lot of it. We need a president who knows what they're doing. So thank you.
I read everything you put out there.
Miller, you didn't remember it very well.
Do the candidates want to have a few minutes of open discussion?
Sure.
All right, you know
Now,
Questions from the audience? I don't know.
no, I want to, Davey.
Yeah.
I don't want to do questions right now from the audience because I'm concerned you have this totalitarian perspective about the United States controlling Iran. Just because you mentioned the people and them persecuting Christians and homosexuals. I stand for homosexuals and Christians, for everyone. I don't do that. We don't do that here in America.
Yes.
But that's a different governing body. Those are people. We can't exert control
Watch
over
me.
another nation. And that's exactly why Iran may have to hold on to nuclear weapons, because they feel threatened by Western influence.
Well, you shouldn't be throwing gays off of buildings. That's not my problem. Well, it is my problem in the sense, I don't care what you think about it. This is what we're going to do. Your country is trying to create a nuclear arsenal, and you're committing vast human rights abuses, and you're constantly a thorn in our side. You're attacking our allies' oil shipping and all this different stuff. We're not going to put up with it. One way or another, we're going to make sure that you do not have nuclear weapons. If it's going to be diplomatic, then I'm glad. Let's try to come to a diplomatic thing. I wouldn't be opposed to that. If it's not going to be diplomatic, if Iran isn't going to agree on day one to come to the negotiating table and prove to us that they're eliminating their nukes, we're going to take out their nuclear capabilities. That's a fact. So that's all there is to it. I'm not going to...
Iran would be
I'm not
insane
put the
to
safety
nuke us.
of the American people in jeopardy because of some abstract national sovereignty thing.
All right, I want you to put yourself in the perspective of Iran
I'm not going to. I'm American.
and just think
I'm
about
American.
superpowers surrounding you and then
Well, they're backed
telling
by
you
Russia
how to
and
govern,
China. All the
building
superpowers
military
surrounding them are
bases,
allies.
moving troops into your country
There's no U.S. troops in
for the
Iran.
control of resources.
We haven't taken control of Iranian resources. You mean around or in?
With trade tariffs and our current trade negotiations, and Iran, a huge supplier of oil to the United States, just because of just the trade tariffs we do on them that encourage Iranian export of oil. It's a totalitarian control of Iran, and that's
Well,
why
Iran's under totalitarian
they feel
control.
pressure. They feel pressured from Western influence.
As they should. No,
I don't stand for that.
I'm not one of those people. I don't want to go overthrow every single country. I don't think we should go overthrow Cuba. They're a dictatorship, but they're not doing things that I believe justify an overthrow. There's plenty of dictatorships that we aren't. I mean, we can't go overthrow every single dictatorship. No one's advocating for that. What we are advocating for is making sure that Iran, one way or another, does not have nuclear capabilities. They should not be allowed to have nuclear capabilities. And America is the bastion of democracy. We're the bastion of freedom. We're the bastion of peace. And it is. We need to make sure that these things aren't happening across the globe. Of course, we got to put America first. And part of putting America first is keeping America safe. and making sure that these countries aren't doing things that are going to put our people and our allies in danger. And from Iran's perspective, I feel sorry for the people of Iran that have to put up with this. I really do. To have a government that cares so little about them and is so radical and is so extreme and brutal. I mean,
Governments have been overthrown in the past. It's up to the people if they want to keep following it. You can't speak for the people of Iran. You can speak for the people of the United States.
Well, I said my heart.
If you're elected president.
Speaking for them, but no.
Well, it seems that you want to. It seems that you want to reduce their defense capabilities, and of course, I don't want them to have nuclear weapons. But there's a better way than threatening them when they've already felt so pressured. I don't want to threaten them to do something that's going to result in a drastic, violent.
Well, they're feeling pressured because they're acting hostile towards us. America didn't start hostile.
I wonder why they're doing that. Do you know how many military bases we have surrounding Iran? The first 100 days of office, I would support. The first 100 days of office, I would support denuclearizing the United States, denuclearizing the United States slowly with China, Russia, and letting Iran know that they are comfortable, so they do not have to escalate their country to developing more nuclear weapons. Or if they have them, intelligence, who knows?
Well, no, about you denuclearize. No, we're not going to denuclearize the United States. The second a rogue regime or a terrorist group acquires some of these nuclear weapons, we're defenseless. We can't denuclearize the U.S.
Not completely, minimally. I mean, we have enough TNT to blow up the world, I think, 1,000 times. So
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't think there's ever
a circumstance
where we have to use all of our nuclear weapons. I mean, that's not going to happen. But we need to make sure that we have these things. It's a preventative thing. It's not that we're going to use them. It's a preventative thing. And that's why
having a stockpile to destroy the world 1,000 times.
That's the scary part. I guess next question.
No.
I mean, I guess nobody was saying anything.
Do we have any questions from the audience, or like you said before, that's a good idea. We can take questions from the audience.
Any questions from the audience? If not, then we'll go to closing statements.
All right, I'd like to ask. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I'd like to.
Well, here.
We'll
okay,
go
could I ask something
first, and then we'll go with Jacob Ewing next.
All right.
Rapid, ask your question.
So, I know both candidates, and especially Davey, have a strong stance against authoritarian regimes and regimes that are committing what the international community views as human rights violations or crimes against humanity. But something that also stood out to me is you guys have been talking about supporting your allies and whatnot. But what that made me think about is, what if our allies are the ones that have some human rights violations? For example, like Israel with displacing people in Gaza and the West Bank and whatnot, stuff like that. Like how are we going to deal with our own close allies in terms of the human rights and morality?
Yeah, I'd also add that Saudi Arabia has a lot more blatant human rights violations, and
yeah, exactly. Saudi Arabia is another.
And we're sending them a lot of arms, and they're our allies. So how are you going to deal with?
You're right. I mean, it's sad that there's a lot of human rights violations out there, but I want to focus on the United States first, because we just don't simply have the resources to help support coups and resistance against so many other nations across the globe. You know, that's why I always say America first, globalism second.
Well, I'd like to say, look, of course, and I agree with the Rib McSauce. He's the one that brought this idea up. We do have to put America first, and credit to him for bringing it up. but we do have to put America first. That's something I agree with him on. America has to be our number one focus. At the same time, if you look at Israel and you look at Saudi Arabia, and you look at these countries, yes, especially with the case of Saudi Arabia, there are serious, concerning human rights abuses committed by that country. But then I want you to ask yourself, would you rather work with a country that lets you station troops inside its borders and is completely reliant on you for weapons? For weapons. Would you rather work with them, or would you rather work with a country that has taken hostages from you, that has funded terrorist groups, that's killed Americans, that's tried to blow up your embassy? I think it's, if we're looking at who we're going to choose as allies here, I think it's a very easy choice in the Middle East who our allies should be. If we're going to have allies in the Middle East, I think it's a very easy choice. And of course, we need to stick for the time being with Saudi Arabia. We need to stick with Israel. They're not perfect, but I think the closer we get to them, and Saudi Arabia is taking microscopic baby steps. They are. It's very small. It needs to be faster, but they are taking steps. And I think in part it is because of their closeness with the West. And I think if the West was to shun them, and the West was to just be like, no, you're evil, we're not going to be around you anymore, I think they would start moving the opposite way. The difference, though, is with Iran, they aren't moving in the right direction. They've become more radical. During the 70s, they were a progressive, liberal democracy, at least from Middle Eastern standards, and now they're like the most fundamentalist, radical Islamic country in the world. So, yes, we're going to stick with Israel, and we're going to stick with the Saudis under my administration.
There are terrorist sponsors in the country of Saudi Arabia.
Is that a rebuttal?
I'm just saying that I thought we're at open discussion.
Oh no, open discussion ended when Vapid asked his question.
Well, didn't he answer Vapid's question, though?
Yeah, I did. So it's your turn to answer.
Well, yeah, so my answer was that Saudi Arabia has sponsors of terrorism in their country.
Yeah, there are different countries that fund different groups and different civil wars.
Yeah.
And there are Saudi individuals that have sponsored.
And you said they're taking.
I would like to
They're
move
doing
on
a
to
good
the
job.
next
What I'm
question.
saying is, if we stop selling them weapons and we stop doing all this stuff, they're gonna turn to Russia. They're gonna turn to China. Iran's already turned to Russia and turned to China, and we're not gonna turn them back from that. They're not gonna agree to liberalize. Saudi Arabia has done better. They have liberalized. This is a small step to think about. It's also a big step. They've allowed women to drive by themselves. That sounds like a very small thing. It is. But it also is a big thing. It shows that they are moving in the right direction. Their new leadership, the newer generation, is open to, in some degrees, liberalizing. It's a step in the right direction. And if a country can show that they're making a step in the right direction, I believe that's a sign of progress. And Iran isn't doing that. Venezuela isn't doing that. North Korea isn't doing that. These countries that I'm against aren't doing that. But also, we do need to put the focus back on America. That's why in my platform there's such a big emphasis on economics, what we're going to do for this country, how we're going to make every man a king. So,
all right. We're going to move on to the last audience question from Jacob. So, Jacob, ask your question. He's going to type it. Give him a moment to type his question. Speaking of terrorism, what will administration do about it? It seems like when we squash one terrorist group, another one appears.
Kill them all.
We're going to start with Mr. McSauce. 2 minutes.
Kill them all. I mean, no mercy, man. Just go in there and fucking kill them all. If the government they're residing in wants to help us, hell yeah, we go in there, we eliminate the threat. But if the government there doesn't want to help us, we don't invade them. We don't oppress their their nationality, don't suppress their sovereignty. sovereignty. We just, tariff the shit out of them and maybe find some sort of negotiation between the nation of that country and their own and ourselves so that we can actually get boots on the ground there and kill those terrorists. But we don't invade them without their permission. We don't move troops in without that nation's permission. And then for the remainder of my time, I'll just say if he's going to be taxing corporate, so now his next rebuttal was that he'll be taxing corporate America much higher. With his current cap, there's going to be more. The government, there's going to be more. People are going to have, let's say, Bill Gates or something. He's going to have like $3 billion in business assets, no more. $20 billion in just business assets, however much he has. Where will that go? So he wants to leave any shares of businesses alone. Okay. Now, if he's leaving those alone, there goes all his money from his taxes to fund these things. Because if he wants to tax the corporations to get money for his universal basic income, he's going to have to tax these corporations 50, 40%. It's going to have to be insanely high
your time is up.
to pay for this UBI.
I'll say it again. I think I've said it maybe 50 times during this election now.
Mr. Long.
I'll say it again. We are going to... the shares are included in the tax. It's basically a wealth tax. So shares are definitely included in this. I don't know where the idea would come from. That or not. Maybe I misspoke. Also, no. This isn't a UBI. Also, like I've said multiple times, it's not a UBI. Shares are included in the tax, and it's what we got to do to make every man a king. That's my vision for America. And he actually answered the question with terrorism. If Mr. McSauce had his way on terrorism, Osama bin Laden would still be alive today, because we didn't kill him with Pakistani permission. We actually went in there against the wills of Pakistan. So, if thankfully we had Barack Obama as commander-in-chief during that time instead of Rib McSauce, because if we had Rib McSauce, Osama bin Laden would still be alive. So,
Mr. McSauce, do you want a rebuttal?
My stance is negotiating with foreign nations to kill terrorists if they reside in that country, not invade them. Imagine China invading the United States because a group of white supremacists explode a building in China. They send troops in and they kill someone in Georgia. What would be the reaction of the United States government? Why are we regarding ourselves as superior to these other countries if we pride ourselves on being democratic and fair for all? It's not.
Mr.
Not just.
McSauce, your time's up.
well, no, because America would punish people if they went to a foreign country and then started blowing up people and killing people. Pakistan wasn't doing anything. If we went years and years and years and years and never punished these people, and then China quickly sent in a team, got them out, and then left, I would probably be upset. Probably put some tariffs, but I wouldn't go to war over it. No, but America, that would never happen in America. We would do something about it, and that's why America has the moral ability to do these things, because we take care of our own country. So thank you.
Your time is up. Mr. McSauce, any more rebuttals?
Yeah. The United States is a selfish country. Every country is a selfish country, I know, but I would say that the United States imposing its will on other nations is not them being an openly democratic, just
Hey, I'm still in the debate.
someone who's going to help out. We have army bases everywhere. We
Love you.
take extreme economic control on a global scale for resources. It's not
Mr. McSauce,
globalist.
your time's up. All right.
Thank you.
With that, that I would conclude the audience questions segment, and we will go into the closing statement, starting with Davey P. Long. Mr. Long, 2 minutes.
Thank you. Now, I'd like to thank you, Harry, for moderating this. Thank you, Marty, for moderating this. And thank you, Rib McSauce, for agreeing to do this debate with me. I've had a really good time discussing the issues with you in front of the American people. At this debate, I believe that we saw two visions for America. One that was a traditional viewpoint, that the government needs to be limited in its activities, that we need to rely on businesses for growth, that trickle down economics, that America can't do more, that America can't do this in this place, America can't solve this problem. I don't buy that. I believe we need a vision that looks forward. We need to recognize that income inequality is a major problem, and we need to have a big, bold plan to do it. That's what my plan is: share the wealth. We need a plan to eliminate poverty in this country. That's what we're going to make every man a king. We need to recognize that, yes, we do need to do something about international terrorism and about the world around us in regards to our interests. America first, with our interests. We can't be a hermit, and we can't be greedy. We have to take America to its fullest potential. And so that's what my candidacy is all about: making America, maxing it out, being the best we can do. And I believe that my plan embodies that. We're going to put more power to the working class. We're going to put more power into our democracy. We're going to put more power. Taking power away from the oligarchs, from the wealthy billionaire donors that run this country, and put it into the hands of the American people. That's what we're going to do if I'm a lucky president. So thank you. God bless.
All right, Mr. McSauce, you have 2 minutes.
All right. I don't know if you guys heard me correctly. I might have not heard him right, but now he's saying the shares will be included in his tax bill. I first thought he wasn't going to include them, but now he's doing it again. So now we're taking businesses again, and once again, I got to bring up the argument of communism. The United States government is now going to control businesses and is going to have a vote and a decision in the prices of products, and that is communism. It's extreme. It's an extreme tax, and even if that tax goes through, which I hope it won't, I hope the American people don't vote for that, because it's going to destroy our businesses and make ourselves a communist nation. Even if it goes through, he won't have enough money for this universal basic income. It is far too expensive. I would rather put the decision on what people want to do with their money in the hands of Americans. Instead of taking from people, we give them less money. I mean, we take less money from them to give them more freedom of choice what to do with their money. We don't decide
freedom of choice. There's no limits on what they can spend with
how
the family
we do
allowance.
that.
Mr. Long, I would remind you that this is closing statements, and there shall be no interruptions during this period.
I have a lot of different things that I want to get in for my presidency. I've mentioned them all tonight, I believe, so far. There might be another thing. The environment, really important to me. AI, education. Free tuition. With my plan, we'll actually be able to afford what I'm going for. I'm not going for this universal basic income. It's far too expensive. I'm going for free tuition, which estimated cost would be about $100 billion a year, which is far less than $750 billion for a universal basic income, which he doesn't call it that, but it is. And what I think that does is give people the freedom to learn. And with the freedom to learn, they have the freedom to grow. And without high taxes, they can do what they want with their money. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Long, Mr. McSauce, for attending this debate. And I would like to thank Marty, the other moderator, who sadly left because he had to do some stuff. But I hope all of you enjoyed this debate and listening to it, and have hopefully made up your mind from this debate. And yeah. Guess we'll see what happens on election day.